I'm Melora Scott, 32 years old. 2 months ago, on Thanksgiving night, in front of more than 30 relatives, my parents handed my older sister a luxury cruise package worth over $14,000 and gave me a wrinkled $2 lottery ticket with a smile that didn't quite hide the mockery behind it. This seems more appropriate for where you are in life. Melora, my mother said, loud enough for everyone at the table to hear. And they laughed. All of them. What they didn't know was that little piece of paper would change everything. Because $100 million changes everything. Just not in the way they expected. Before we go any further, take a moment to subscribe, but only if you believe life can change in the most unexpected ways. I'd also love to know where you're listening from, and what the temperature is like there right now. And just a quick note, this is a fictional story, with some AI-enhanced elements to make the emotions feel more vivid and real. Now, let me take you back to Thanksgiving night. The night everything in my life quietly started to fall apart. In the Scott family, Thanksgiving wasn't about warmth or connection. It was more like a performance. Everyone had a role and I had known mine for years. I pulled into my parents' driveway at exactly 5 p.m., holding a homemade autumn salad and a bouquet of dahlias I had grown myself. Deep crimson petals, rich and full, perfect for the season. I had spent 3 months taking care of them. My mother opened the door before I even knocked. Oh, Melora. Her eyes flicked down to the flowers, then quickly away, still playing with plants. I see. Before I could respond, a loud squeal echoed from inside. Elena's here. My mother brushed past me without another glance, arms wide open as she rushed toward my sister. There's my girl, that dress. Oh my goodness. It's gorgeous. Is it new? I stood there in the doorway, still holding my flowers, watching her hug Elena like they hadn't seen each other in years. It had been 10 days. Inside, the house buzzed with noise. Relatives I barely recognized filled every corner. My father sat in his leather chair, deep in conversation with my brother-in-law, Victor Hale. He didn't stand when I walked in, didn't even really look at me. Melora. Good you made it, he said, eyes still on Victor. We could use help setting the table? Of course. That was my role. I moved quietly through the house, arranging plates, folding napkins, refilling glasses. Meanwhile, everyone gathered around Victor as he talked about his latest real estate deals, big numbers, big promises. They leaned in like he was telling them secrets to success. I watched from a distance. Something about him had always felt off, smooth, in a way that didn't quite feel honest, but I had no proof. Just a feeling I couldn't explain. Across the room, my Aunt Clara Whitmore met my eyes. She gave me a small, sympathetic smile. Later, while I was setting the dining table alone, my mother brought over a distant cousin. This is Melora, my younger daughter, she said casually. She does gardening, something with plants. Landscape architecture, I corrected softly. I design green spaces for commercial properties. She waved her hand dismissively. Same thing. Dear, I didn't argue. Some battles aren't worth fighting. Not yet. A few minutes later, I was refilling a water pitcher when I heard voices coming from the kitchen. The door was slightly open, and they were talking quietly. My parents and my sister. That low, conspiratorial tone families use when they think no one is listening. The cruise leaves December 18th. My mother said, 2 weeks in the Caribbean. All of us, you, Victor, the kids, your father and I, even Grandma Evelyn. If she's strong enough. My hand froze on the pitcher. What about Melora? Elena asked. Not worried. Just acknowledging that I existed. There was a pause. Then my father cleared his throat. She's busy with work. And honestly, trips like this are expensive. We don't want to put that kind of pressure on her. I stood there, completely still. They hadn't asked if I was busy. They hadn't asked if I wanted to go. They hadn't even considered it. They had already decided I wasn't worth including. I pushed the door open. I'm not invited. 3 faces turned toward me. My mother's smile tightened just enough to show the strain beneath it. My father suddenly found his coffee cup fascinating. "Sweetheart," my mother began, her tone soft but rehearsed. "This trip is to celebrate Victor's promotion." She continued, "It's really more of a family thing." I finished quietly. "It's not about you." "Melora," Elena added, her voice smooth, almost sweet. "We just didn't think you'd be interested. You're always so independent." Independent. The word they used when they didn't want to say outsider. I opened my mouth to respond, but movement behind me caught my attention. Grandma Evelyn stood in the hallway, her frail hand gripping her walker. Her eyes met mine, sharp and clear despite her age, filled with something I couldn't quite name. She reached out and gently squeezed my hand. She didn't say a word, but in that silence, I felt seen. "Melora, help your grandmother sit down," my mother said quickly, already steering her away. She shouldn't be standing this long. As she disappeared around the corner, Grandma Evelyn looked back at me. Her lips moved, barely forming the words. "Call Daniel Hayes this week." I didn't understand. Not yet. But something in her eyes told me I would. Soon. The dining room fell silent when my father stood, tapping his wine glass with a fork. "Before we eat, I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight." He smiled. That polished, practiced smile he used on customers back when he still owned his dealership. Family is everything. Around the table, heads nodded in agreement. I counted them without meaning to. 30 people, 30 witnesses. "This year," he continued, "your mother and I wanted to do something special for our daughters." He gestured toward Elena. "Elena, sweetheart, come here." She stepped forward gracefully, her heels clicking softly against the floor, every movement perfectly composed. My mother handed her a thick envelope, practically glowing with pride. "This is for you, Victor, and the kids." Elena opened it, her eyes widening instantly. "A 14-day Caribbean cruise," my mother announced. "First class." The room exploded. Gasps, applause, excited chatter. Elena pressed a hand to her chest, tears spilling down her cheeks in that effortless, picture-perfect way. "Oh my God. Thank you. This is incredible." She hugged both of them tightly. "It's too much. $14,000. I knew because I had seen the itinerary weeks ago on my mother's laptop. I wasn't meant to, but I had." Then my mother turned to me. The applause faded. The room quieted. "Melora, honey, come here." My legs felt stiff as I walked forward. She placed a thin envelope in my hand. Inside was a single piece of paper, a lottery ticket. Mega Millions. $2. "This suits your situation better," she said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Who knows? Maybe luck will find you." A snicker broke the silence. Then another. Victor leaned back in his chair, a smug grin spreading across his face. "Luck's a long shot when there's nothing upstairs to support it." Laughter rippled around the table. Elena covered her mouth, giggling softly. "That's actually adorable. Mom. Maybe she'll win $5. I stared down at the ticket in my hand. My face burned, heat rising up my neck. But somewhere deeper, something shifted, something cracked, something finally broke free. I looked up and smiled. "Thank you, Mom," I said evenly. "I'm sure it's exactly what I deserve." No one caught the edge in my voice, but I felt it. The laughter was still echoing when another voice cut through the room. "Harold, Denise, this is not right." Every head turned. Grandma Evelyn stood at the edge of the dining room, her small frame trembling without the support of her walker. Her voice was thin, but it carried. "You will not treat Melora this way. Not in front of everyone. Not ever." The silence that followed was heavier than before. Uncomfortable. No one had expected her to speak. My father's jaw tightened. "Mother, please, I'm not finished." But my mother was already moving, her heels clicking sharply against the floor as she reached for her. My mother slipped an arm around Grandma Evelyn with that same practiced ease she used whenever she needed to control a situation. "You're tired. Mom, let me take you to lie down." "Denise, I'm not. The doctor said you need rest." My mother cut in smoothly. "Come on." I stood there, helpless, as she guided Grandma Evelyn toward the guest room, just before disappearing down the hallway. My grandmother looked back at me. Our eyes met. She gave a small, deliberate nod. Then her gaze shifted ever so slightly toward the armchair by the window. Her old leather handbag sat there, the one she carried everywhere, the one no one was ever allowed to touch. The door closed behind them, and just like that, the room breathed again. If you believe my parents treated my sister better because she truly deserved it, then comment right. But if something about that situation feels unfair to you, if you think love shouldn't be measured that way, then comment unfair. I'm really curious to know what you would have felt in my place. Return to the ceremony. Conversations picked up. Laughter returned. Plates clinked. As if nothing had happened. As if she hadn't just stood there and called them out in front of everyone. But I noticed Aunt Clara watching me from across the room. Her face was pale, her lips pressed together like she was holding something back, like she wanted to say something, and chose not to. I excused myself quietly and slipped into the bathroom. I locked the door and stared at my reflection. The lottery ticket was still crumpled tightly in my hand. $2. That's what they thought I was worth. But Grandma Evelyn had said something. Daniel Hayes. A lawyer. Why would she want me to call a lawyer? She didn't have lawsuits. No legal disputes. At least, none that I knew of. I didn't have answers yet, but something deep in my chest told me I was about to. It was close to midnight when I found myself cleaning up alone. Like always. Most of the guests had already left. Elena and Victor were in the living room, laughing as they scrolled through cruise outfits on their phones. My parents stood near the front door, seeing off the last relatives with practiced warmth. I carried a stack of dishes toward my father's study when I noticed the door slightly open. Inside. Papers were scattered across his desk like he had left in a hurry. I hesitated for a second, then stepped in. Bills. Several of them. Stamped in red. Overdue. A letter from a collection agency. And beneath everything else, a document that made my blood run cold. A loan agreement. Signed by my father. Co-signed by Victor Hale. $180,000. The interest rate made my stomach twist. It was the kind of number you only saw in places that didn't follow the law. My hands started to shake as I turned the page. And then it got worse. Collateral documents. For Grandma Evelyn's house. The house she had lived in for over 50 years. The house my mother grew up in. The house that was supposed to be hers for the rest of her life. Her signature was there, but it didn't look right. It was shaky. Uneven. Dated 6 months ago. The same month she had fallen. The same month she had been in the hospital, heavily medicated, barely aware of what was happening around her. They had made her sign it, when she wasn't herself. My heart started pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. I pulled out my phone and took pictures. Every page, every detail. I didn't know what I was going to do with them. I didn't have a plan. But in that moment, something became clear. This was never about love. It wasn't about Elena being the favorite. I wasn't the overlooked daughter. I was the problem. The one who might notice. The one who might ask questions. The one who might not stay quiet. They needed me small, invisible, easy to dismiss. That's why I got a $2 lottery ticket. I slipped out through the back door. My phone filled with evidence, my mind racing faster than I could keep up with. For the first time in my life, I wasn't going to stay silent. A week after Thanksgiving, I called Aunt Clara. She answered on the second ring. Melora, Aunt Clara. I need to ask you something. What is it? Sweetheart? I took a breath. Is my dad in serious debt? Silence? Long? Heavy. You know something, don't you? I pressed. Another pause. How did you find out I saw documents at the house? A loan agreement. Victor's name is on it. Melora. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Don't talk about this on the phone. Why not? Because there are things you don't know yet. About Victor. About your father. My grip tightened around my phone. What things? What things, I asked. My voice tighter than I intended. Not here. Not like this. Aunt Clara said quickly. Meet me Saturday. Elm Street Cafe. 2:00. Aunt Clara. Please. And Melora. She hesitated just long enough to make my chest tighten. Don't trust anything Victor tells you. He's not who he pretends to be. The line went dead. I stood there for a moment. Phone still pressed to my ear. The silence louder than anything she could have said. Later that night, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the lottery ticket on my kitchen counter. I had completely forgotten about it. It had been sitting there for days, crumpled, ignored. Just like me. I let out a slow breath. Maybe it was time to check it. I opened the Mega Millions app, typed in the numbers, and watched the screen as it processed. The first number matched. My heart skipped. The second matched. I stopped breathing. Then the third, the fourth, the fifth, all 6. I blinked, certain I had made a mistake. I refreshed the app. Same result. I went to the official website. Enter the numbers again with shaking fingers. Same numbers. Same result. $100 million. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just sat there, completely still, like my body didn't know how to react to something that big. Minutes passed, maybe longer. Then my mind finally caught up. I grabbed my phone and typed the first thing that came to mind. What to do if you win the lottery. A flood of advice filled the screen. Stay anonymous. Get a lawyer. Don't tell anyone. And then something clicked. Grandma Evelyn's voice. Call Daniel Hayes. I stared at the name in my mind. That wasn't random. That was intentional. I picked up my phone and dialed the number she had given me. He answered on the third ring. Daniel Hayes speaking. Hi. My name is Melora Scott. My grandmother, Evelyn Scott, told me to call you. There was a brief pause. Yes, he said, his voice calm, measured. I was expecting you might reach out. She told me to call, but I don't really understand why. I think it would be best if you came to my office, he replied. There are several matters we need to discuss. About what a few things, he said. Then, after a slight pause, you've come into something significant. I swallowed. I won the lottery. How much? $100 million. This time. The silence was longer. Then yes. He said finally. We absolutely need to meet. But his tone shifted slightly. However, what your grandmother asked me to discuss with you existed long before that ticket. My grip tightened on the phone. What do you mean? It concerns her estate. And her house. My stomach dropped. What about her house? It's not something I can explain properly over the phone. He said. You need to see the documents yourself. When can I come tomorrow? If possible. I'll be there. And Ms. T. Scott. Yes. Do not mention this conversation to anyone in your family. Not yet. I understand. I ended the call and stared at my reflection in the dark screen of my phone. The lottery ticket had given me money. But whatever Daniel Hayes was about to show me, that felt like something else entirely. Something deeper. Something dangerous. The next morning, I arrived at his office. The moment I stepped inside, I noticed the smell. Old books, polished wood, and something else. The quiet weight of secrets waiting to be uncovered. He was older than I expected, probably in his early 60s, with silver hair neatly combed back and kind, steady eyes behind thin, wire-rimmed glasses. There was something about him that felt grounded, the kind of man who still believed in doing things the right way, even when it was inconvenient. Please, have a seat, he said, gesturing toward the chair across from his desk. I sat down, my hands resting in my lap, still not entirely sure what I was about to hear. What did my grandmother want you to tell me? Without rushing, he reached for a folder on his desk and slid it toward me. 10 years ago, he said calmly, your grandmother established a trust fund in your name. I blinked. A trust fund? Yes. I opened the folder slowly, my fingers already starting to tremble. $500,000. For a second, the room felt like it tilted. What I flipped through the pages, legal documents, bank statements, signatures, everything official, everything real. I never knew. She wanted it that way. Daniel Hayes said gently. Why? His expression softened. But there was something heavy behind it. She was afraid. Afraid of what that your mother would find a way to take it from you. I swallowed hard. That sounded exactly like something my mother would do. I kept reading, my heart pounding louder with every page. There's more, he added quietly. I looked up. The house. He said, your grandmother's house. My chest tightened. I saw the documents, I said. My father used it as collateral. He nodded once. The deed was signed 6 months ago, the day after your grandmother was admitted to the hospital. My stomach dropped. She was heavily medicated. He continued, barely coherent. That's fraud, I said, my voice shaking. Potentially. He replied. The signature is inconsistent. The timing is highly suspicious. But proving coercion, that's more complicated. Especially without direct witnesses. She didn't know what she was signing. I don't believe she did. He leaned forward slightly, his voice steady but firm. Ms. Scott, your father currently owes Victor Hale $180,000. I felt the pieces start to click into place. The house was used as collateral. If your father defaults, Victor gains full ownership of the property. Everything suddenly made sense. The favoritism, the exclusion, the way they had treated me like I didn't belong, the $2 lottery ticket. I was never supposed to look closely, never supposed to ask questions, never supposed to find out. I closed the folder slowly, my mind racing. What can I do? Daniel Hayes didn't hesitate. With your current financial position, he said carefully, you have options. I held his gaze. We can challenge the deed legally. We can pay off the debt and remove the lien from the property. Most importantly, we can protect your grandmother. I looked down at the papers again. $500,000 from the one person who had quietly believed in me all along. 100 million from a crumpled ticket no one thought mattered. For the first time. The answer felt clear. We protect her, I said. He nodded. Now let me tell you what Aunt Clara revealed. The cafe on Elm Street was nearly empty when she arrived. The afternoon light filtered through the windows, casting long shadows across the floor. She looked different than she had at Thanksgiving. Older somehow. More fragile. She slid into the seat across from me, clutching her purse tightly, like it was the only thing keeping her steady. Thank you for meeting me, I said softly. I should have said something years ago, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. But your mother, you know how Denise is? I nodded. I did. Tell me about Victor. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for her coffee. He's not a consultant, she said. Not really. I leaned forward. He lends money. To people who are desperate. The kind of interest rates that ruin lives. I wasn't surprised. Not completely. But hearing it out loud made it real in a way I couldn't ignore. There's more, she added. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through her photos before turning the screen toward me. 2 months ago. At your parents' anniversary party. Victor left his phone unlocked on the counter. I wasn't trying to snoop, I was just looking for mine. On the screen were messages. Between Victor and someone named Liana. The words were intimate, undeniable. I can't wait until this is over. Once the house deal closes. I'm out. My chest tightened. What about Elena? I asked quietly. Aunt Clara's lips trembled. He said she served her purpose. That divorce papers were already prepared. I stared at the screen, my thoughts spinning. He's cheating on her. For 8 months. She confirmed. Liana is his assistant. There were tears in her eyes now. I wanted to tell Elena, but I was afraid. Victor isn't someone you cross. Does she know I don't think so? She's so focused on being perfect. The perfect wife. The perfect daughter. She doesn't see what's right in front of her. I leaned back slowly, trying to process everything. For the first time. I saw it clearly. Elena wasn't my enemy. She was just another piece in a system that had never been fair to begin with. Thank you, I said, reaching across the table to squeeze her hand. You did the right thing? She nodded, wiping her eyes. I'm sorry I waited so long. Melora, it's not too late, I said. Not yet. Later that day, I went to see Grandma Evelyn. The nursing home smelled faintly of antiseptic and fading flowers. Her room was small, but bright, with a window that overlooked a neglected garden. Weeds had taken over. The soil dry and tired. It needed care. My kind of care. She looked smaller than I remembered, more fragile, but when I stepped inside, her eyes lit up immediately. Melora, she said, reaching for my hand. You came. Of course I did. I pulled a chair closer and sat beside her. I spoke to Daniel Hayes. I told her. Her grip tightened slightly. Good. He's a good man. Why didn't you tell me about the trust? Because your mother would have taken it, she said simply. There was no hesitation in her voice. You were the only one who never asked me for anything, she continued. Never expected anything. That's how I knew you deserved it. My eyes stung. And the house. She went on. They made me sign something. I don't remember clearly. Everything was blurry. I was in pain. I know. I said gently. We're going to fix it. She studied my face closely. There's something else, she said. Something you're not telling me. I hesitated. Then I told her. About the ticket. About the numbers. About the $100 million. For a moment, she just stared at me. Then she laughed. A soft, fragile sound, like paper rustling in the wind. Karma, she whispered. I always believed in karma. I smiled faintly. I'm going to get your house back, I said. I'll make sure you can live there again, no matter what it takes. Her hand moved up, resting gently against my cheek. I don't need you to take revenge, Melora, she said softly. I just need you to protect what matters, and to be free. I will. Promise me something. Anything. Don't become like them. Don't let the money change who you are. I leaned forward and kissed her forehead. I promise. Some promises are easy to say. This one, I meant. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving. The Scott family gathered again. This time for a farewell dinner before the cruise. And once again, I wasn't there as a guest. I was there to serve. Melora, can you handle the centerpieces? You're good with plants. Melora, the caterer needs direction. Melora, make sure Grandma Evelyn's nurse knows we'll be gone for 2 weeks. I did everything with a calm smile, played my role perfectly. The quiet, capable daughter they never really saw. What they didn't know was that lawyers were already working behind the scenes for me. They didn't know about the LLC I had set up to claim my winnings anonymously. They didn't know that in just a few weeks, I would be worth more than everyone in that room combined. Dinner unfolded like a performance. Compliments, laughter, self-congratulation. Victor sat at the center of it all, describing the cruise in detail. Snorkeling in Barbados. Private dinners, spa treatments for Elena. Too bad you can't come. Melora, Elena said lightly. But someone has to take care of Mom's orchids. I don't mind, I replied with a soft smile. I hope you all have an amazing time. My father laughed and clapped Victor on the shoulder. Best thing that ever happened to this family. Victor glanced at me. His smile didn't reach his eyes. It was sharp, calculating. Hey, Melora, he said, leaning in slightly. Bought any more lottery tickets lately? Maybe you'll win $5 next time. The table burst into laughter. I let them. You never know, I said evenly. Life has a way of surprising people. My mother raised her glass. To family, to fortune, to the Scotts. Glasses clinked around the table. I lifted mine, took a small sip, and set it down. 12 days. In 12 days. They would be somewhere in the middle of the ocean, and I would be ready. The morning they left, I didn't go with them. You're not even coming to see us off, my mother had asked the night before. Her voice edged with disappointment. I have a client meeting, I said. A big project. She sighed. Always work with you, as if I had ever been given another option, while they boarded their cruise. I sat in Daniel Hayes's office, finalizing paperwork. After taxes, the money would clear at around $62 million, more than enough for everything I had planned. I was reviewing documents when my phone buzzed. Elena, Melora, something's wrong with Dad's card. It got declined at the port. Can you send $500? I'll pay you back. I stared at the message. The irony was almost too perfect. The first time in my life she had ever asked me for money, and I already knew why the card had been declined. The debt was catching up. Victor wasn't covering anything anymore. The illusion was starting to crack. I typed back slowly. I don't have $500 right now. Maybe ask Victor. He understands finances better. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. then appeared again. Never mind. We figured it out. I didn't ask how. I didn't need to. What mattered was that they were on that ship now. All of them. My parents. Elena. Victor. Far away. Isolated. I turned back to Daniel. "How soon can we challenge the house deed Monday?" he said. "As soon as you're ready." I nodded and glanced out the window at the city below. Somewhere far beyond that horizon, a cruise ship was moving toward the Caribbean, and I was preparing something very different. On the third day of their trip, I posted a single Instagram story. Just me, standing in front of Grandma Evelyn's house. The house that was never supposed to be hers anymore. The caption was simple: "Home renovation project starting soon." I knew my father would see it. He always did. That same day. The story started spreading. It wasn't anything dramatic at first. Just a short segment on the local news. The Mega Millions jackpot had been claimed. The winner chose to remain anonymous. But there was one detail they couldn't hide. The ticket had been purchased at a small convenience store just a few miles from my parents' house. I didn't plan that part. I didn't need to. Sometimes life has a strange way of aligning things at exactly the right moment. Aunt Clara was the first to mention it in the family group chat. "Did anyone see the news? Someone from our area won $100 million. They bought the ticket at that little store on Maple Avenue, the one near your parents' house." Within seconds, the chat exploded. Messages poured in one after another. Cousins throwing out guesses, turning it into a game. Uncle Raymond joking about quitting his job and retiring early if it turned out to be someone we knew. Everyone was excited, curious, entertained, until the realization started to creep in. And then, right on cue, my phone buzzed. A private message. From my mother. "Melora, that lottery ticket I gave you on Thanksgiving. You still have it?" "Right." I stared at the screen longer than necessary, not because I didn't know what to say, but because I wanted her to sit with that question, to feel the weight of it, to wonder. Finally, I typed back, "Yes, Mom, I still have it." "Why?" Her reply came almost immediately. "Just curious." No reason. That emoji said more than her words ever could. My mother never used emojis, not unless she was nervous, not unless something was slipping out of her control. Exactly 1 hour later, the calls began. At first, just one, then another, then a steady stream that didn't stop. My phone lit up again and again. Mom, Dad, Elena, Victor, all of them. Suddenly desperate to reach me, I let every single call go unanswered. I watched the screen light up, then go dark, then light up again. By early evening, I had more than 40 missed calls. By midnight, that number had nearly doubled, almost 80, and with them came the voicemails. At first, they were casual. "Melora, honey, just calling to check in." Then more urgent. "Melora, this is important. Please call me back." Then confusion. "I don't understand why you're ignoring us. This isn't like you." My father left one message that stood out. Short, direct. "We need to talk. Family matter. Family." That word again. Elena sounded different, more anxious than I had ever heard her. "Melora. Seriously, what's going on? Mom is freaking out." And then there was Victor. Calm, controlled, smooth as ever. "Melora, I think we should have a conversation about some potential investment opportunities. Family helping family. You know?" I sat there in my apartment, completely still, listening to each message one by one, letting their voices fill the silence. It was almost surreal. For years, I had been invisible to them, an afterthought, someone they called only when they needed help with something small. And now I had their full attention. Not because they suddenly cared about me, but because they were afraid of what I might have. That realization didn't hurt anymore. It just felt clear. I picked up my phone and typed a message to Daniel Hayes. Is everything ready? His reply came within seconds. Ready when you are. That was all I needed. I opened the family group chat again, the same one that had been filled with jokes and guesses just hours ago, and I typed one sentence. I'll video call tonight at 8 p.m. Everyone needs to be there. I have something important to share. For a brief moment. The chat went silent. Then the responses came rushing in. Of course. Sweetheart, we'll all be there. Looking forward to it. Elena added. Can't wait. And Victor. He sent a simple thumbs-up emoji. Confident. Certain. Like he already knew how this would end. I stared at the screen for a long moment. They thought this was their moment. They thought I was finally going to reveal everything. Thought I would turn to them for guidance. For approval. For help. And maybe a part of them believed I would share it. That I would hand them a piece of what they thought they deserved. I set my phone down slowly. And for the first time that day, I allowed myself to smile. Because they were right about one thing. Everything was about to be revealed. Just not in the way they expected. They thought I was going to ask for their advice. They had no idea what was coming. I spent the rest of the afternoon preparing, organizing documents, rehearsing every word. This wasn't revenge. This was truth. And truth has a way of setting things right. At exactly 8 o'clock I clicked join. Their faces filled my screen, all gathered together in what looked like the ship's lounge. Behind them, the ocean stretched out under a glowing sunset. Melora, my mother said. Her voice suddenly warm, almost overly sweet. There's our girl. We miss you so much. We really wish you were here. My father added. It sounded convincing. Almost. Elena waved from behind them. Hi, Melora. You look great. Did you do something different with your hair? They had never once noticed my hair before. Victor sat slightly apart, arms crossed, watching me carefully. Melora. Good to see you. Thank you all for joining, I said calmly. I know you're busy enjoying your trip. Family comes first. My mother replied quickly. Always. Interesting. My father leaned forward. We heard something. About a lottery ticket. I didn't hesitate. Yes. I won. The silence that followed was immediate and heavy. Then everything broke at once. What? That's incredible. How much I let them talk. Let the excitement build. Then I spoke again. $100 million. My mother's hand flew to her chest. My father stared. Speechless. Elena looked like she might collapse. Victor was the first to recover. That's life-changing, he said, leaning forward. You'll need help managing that. Investments, taxes, protection strategies. I already have a lawyer, I said, cutting him off. He forced a smile. Of course, but having family involves someone who understands finance before we talk about money, I said, my voice steady. There are some things you all need to see. His smile faltered. What kind of things? The truth. I shared my screen. The first document appeared. This, I said, is a loan agreement between my father and Victor Hale. $180,000, 32% interest. My father's face drained of color. Where did you get that? And this, I continued, clicking to the next page, is the deed to Grandma Evelyn's house. Silence. Signed over as collateral. Dated the same week she was hospitalized. Heavily medicated. My mother's lips parted, but no words came out. That signature is unstable because she didn't understand what she was signing. I said, There are medical records to support that. This could be considered fraud. Melora, this is family business. My father tried to interrupt. I'm not finished. I clicked again. Messages filled the screen. These are conversations between Victor and his assistant, Liana. I read one aloud. Once the house deal closes, I'm out. She served her purpose. Divorce papers are already drafted. Elena froze. What? Victor stood up abruptly, his chair scraping behind him. That's fake. She's lying. Is it? I said quietly. I looked directly at my sister. Elena, look at him, and ask him. She turned slowly toward Victor, her voice barely a whisper. Victor. Victor. He didn't answer. He grabbed his phone and walked out of the frame without a word. My mother started crying immediately. My father just sat there, frozen, like everything had finally caught up with him. I took a slow breath. Here's what's going to happen, I said calmly. I'm using my money to pay off the debt and remove the lien on Grandma Evelyn's house. The deed will be transferred back to her, legally protected. Silence. None of you will have any claim to it. Melora. Please, my father said, his voice breaking. We're family. Family doesn't take advantage of a 90-year-old woman, I replied. My tone steady. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. And I'm not finished, I added. Then I stopped. Because I knew something. A lot of you listening right now probably wish you could say these exact words to your own family. If that's you, I understand. But this story isn't over yet. And what happened next? Even I didn't expect. I ended the call before anyone could respond. The last image frozen on my screen was chaos. Elena crying. My mother shouting something I couldn't hear. My father sitting there, head in his hands. Victor gone. My apartment fell into silence. Just me, and the fading light outside the window. I had imagined this moment so many times. I thought I would feel powerful, victorious. Instead, I felt empty, exhausted, like I had just finished something I didn't fully understand how to carry. My phone exploded seconds later. Calls, messages, voicemails. I turned it to silent and placed it face down. Then there was a knock at the door. I froze. No one knew where I lived now. I walked slowly to the door and looked through the peephole. Aunt Clara. She looked just as drained as I felt. I opened the door. How did you find me? Daniel Hayes gave me your address. She said gently. I hope that's okay. I stepped aside and let her in. She took one look at me and pulled me into a hug. You did the right thing, she whispered. You did what none of us ever had the courage to do. Did I? My voice cracked. I just destroyed my family on a video call. She pulled back, holding my shoulders firmly. No, they broke themselves a long time ago. You just turned on the light. My phone buzzed again. A message from Elena. I didn't know about Victor. I swear I didn't know. I'm so sorry. I need time. But I'm sorry. I read it once. Then again. And again. What do you think? Aunt Clara asked quietly. I don't know. I admitted. I don't know if she means it. I don't know if anything will change. You don't have to decide tonight. She was right. For the first time in 32 years, I had time. I had choices. I had freedom. 2 weeks later, Daniel Hayes called. It's done, he said. The challenge went through faster than expected, with the medical records and your aunt's testimony. The bank agreed to void the original transfer. I exhaled slowly. I hadn't even realized how tense I'd been. So the house, it's still technically under the bank's control. He explained. Your father defaulted once Victor stopped backing him, but now, you can resolve it. I will. I said immediately, whatever it costs. Approximately $215,000, including fees, once paid. The deed can be transferred cleanly back to your grandmother. Do it. The money meant nothing, compared to what I had now. It was barely noticeable. But what it stood for, that was everything. There's one more thing, he added. I listened. I've included a protection clause. Once the house is in your grandmother's name, no one in your family will have any legal claim to it. Not your parents. Not anyone. I closed my eyes for a moment and nodded. Not during her lifetime. Not after. Daniel Hayes repeated calmly. And when she passes, the property will transfer to you, exactly as your grandmother intended from the beginning. I sat there quietly, letting his words settle in my mind. I saw that crumpled lottery ticket again, the way my mother had smiled when she handed it to me, the quiet dismissal hidden behind a joke. $2. That was the value they had placed on me. I want to add one more clause, I said after a moment. He nodded. Go ahead. I want it clearly written that my grandmother can live in that house for the rest of her life, with full-time care if she ever needs it. Everything covered. No conditions. Daniel didn't hesitate. That's already included, he said. I let out a breath I didn't realize I had been holding. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. Not a polite smile. Not a defensive one. A real one. Thank you. He shook his head slightly. Don't thank me. Thank your grandmother. She trusted you for a reason. I left his office with a sense of clarity I had never felt before. The next call I made was simple. I'm coming to pick up Evelyn Scott. I told the nursing home. She's going home. Everything that followed, I didn't have to control. Victor tried. Of course. That was his nature. He told anyone who would listen that I had fabricated everything, that the documents were fake, that I was unstable, jealous, trying to destroy my own family. Maybe once. That story would have worked. But not anymore. Because there was someone he hadn't counted on. Liana. 3 days after the video call, she exposed everything. Photos of them together. Hotel receipts. Messages that were far more explicit than the ones I had shown. Evidence layered on evidence. And then, her video, her voice shaking. Mascara smeared. Anger spilling through every word. Victor Hale is a liar. He promised me everything. He said he was leaving his wife. And now he's pretending I don't exist. It spread fast. Within hours, hundreds of people had seen it. By the next day, thousands. And it didn't stop there. 2 of Victor's former business partners came forward. Complaints, documents, testimony, predatory lending, illegal interest rates, practices that crossed legal boundaries in more than one state. The truth had a way of building momentum once it was set free. I didn't need to push anything. The dominoes fell on their own. The consequences came quickly. My father declared bankruptcy the following month. The auto shop he had owned for decades was gone. Sold off piece by piece to cover debts that had been piling up long before I ever stepped into his office that night. I thought I would feel something when I heard anger, satisfaction, vindication, but I didn't. What I felt was quiet, a strange, peaceful emptiness, karma. Grandma Evelyn said softly when I told her, sitting beside her in the living room that had once been taken from her. I told you I believed in it. She squeezed my hand gently. I squeezed back. There was nothing else to say. 3 weeks after the call, my mother reached out. I stared at her name on my phone for a long time before answering. Melora. Her voice sounded thin, fragile. You've ruined us. No greeting, no hesitation, just accusation. I didn't ruin anything, I said calmly. I told the truth. The truth, she snapped, a bitter laugh breaking through. Everyone knows now. Everyone. The neighbors. The church. Even my book club. I've been going there for years and now they won't even return my calls. I'm sorry that's happening, I said. Are you? Her voice cracked. You had everything. $100 million. You could have helped us. You could have saved your father's business. I could have hidden what happened. I replied. I could have ignored the fraud. I could have pretended Victor wasn't lying to all of us. I could have let you take Grandma's house. We're your family, she said, almost pleading now. So is she. The silence stretched between us. Mom, I said quietly, I'm not blocking you. If you ever want to have a real conversation, one where you take responsibility instead of shifting blame, I'll be here. Her tone changed instantly. You've become so cold. I exhaled slowly. I learned from you. The line went dead. That was the last time we spoke for 6 months. My father never called at all. Through Aunt Clara, I heard bits and pieces. They had moved into a small apartment across town. My father was working again. But not for himself. Just another mechanic in someone else's shop. My mother had taken a job at a grocery store. I didn't celebrate it. I didn't feel victorious. Because that had never been the goal. The goal was never to destroy them. The goal was to finally stop destroying myself trying to earn their approval. 3 months later, a letter arrived. Handwritten. I recognized the handwriting immediately. Elena. I hadn't seen it since we were kids, passing notes back and forth when everything still felt simple. I opened it slowly. She apologized. Not for the money, not to get anything from me, but because she finally saw what she had refused to see for years. She admitted she had known something was wrong. Not everything, but enough. And she chose to ignore it, because facing it would have meant admitting that her perfect life wasn't real. She admitted she had failed me, that she had hidden behind the idea that I was strong, independent, capable, that I didn't need anyone. But that had just been an excuse. She told me the divorce was finalized, that she was starting over, and that she didn't expect forgiveness. She just wanted me to know that she finally saw me. I read the letter 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and placed it in a drawer. I didn't respond. Not yet. But something shifted inside me. Not forgiveness, not fully. But something softer than anger. A door that had been closed for years opened just slightly. A month later, we met for coffee. It was awkward, careful. Neither of us knew how to be sisters anymore, but we tried. And that was enough for now. In April, Grandma Evelyn came home. I stood in the driveway as the van pulled in, the same driveway where I had fallen off my bike as a child, the same place where she used to wave goodbye every time I left. She looked smaller now, weaker. But when she saw the house, her eyes lit up, and in that moment, I understood something clearly. This was never about money. It was about dignity, about truth, about choosing, finally, to stand on my own side. She looked smaller when she came home, frailer than I remembered. Time and everything that had happened seemed to have folded her in on herself just a little, but when the attendant wheeled her up the ramp I had installed, her eyes didn't go to me first. They went to the garden. It was overgrown, wild, neglected after months without care, but it was still there, still alive. And she smiled. It needs work, she said softly. I know. I replied, I'm going to fix it. I paused, then added with a small smile, that's kind of my thing. Remember, over the past month, I had transformed the house as much as I could. Ramps, Wider doorways, safety rails, a hospital bed in the master bedroom, a full-time care system ready if she ever needed it. Everything designed to give her comfort, dignity, and independence. For the first time in my life, I had the resources to take care of someone the way they truly deserved. That afternoon, we sat together in the sunroom. The light filtered softly through the windows, and a pair of goldfinches hopped around the feeder I had installed outside. "You did all this?" she asked, her voice filled with quiet wonder. "It's your home," I said. "It should feel like one." She didn't answer right away. She just watched the birds for a long moment, then turned to me. "Your mother called me last week." I felt my body tense instinctively. "What did she say?" "She wanted me to talk to you, to convince you to come back, to fix things." I let out a slow breath. "And what did you tell her?" Grandma Evelyn looked at me directly. Her eyes were still sharp, still clear. "I told her you never left." I frowned slightly. "What do you mean? Family isn't about showing up for holidays," she said gently. "It's about showing up when it matters." Her hand reached for mine. "You showed up, Melora. When everyone else saw what they could take from me, you saw what you could give." My throat tightened. "I just did what felt right." She smiled faintly. "That's the hardest thing to do. And you did it anyway." We sat there together until the sun began to set, the room slowly filling with golden light. We didn't need to say anything else. A year later, my life looked nothing like it had before. Not because of the money, because of the choices I made after everything changed. I still worked. Not because I had to, but because I loved it. My landscape design business had grown. I had hired 2 new employees, moved into a real office with windows that actually let in sunlight, and built a waiting list of clients who valued what I created. Over that year, I designed 3 public gardens, spaces where people could sit, breathe, and feel something peaceful in a world that rarely slows down. The money from the lottery sat mostly untouched, carefully invested. I didn't need it to define my life. I bought a small house not far from Grandma Evelyn's. Nothing extravagant. Just enough space for me and the dog I finally adopted. Her name was Clover, a rescue mutt with too much energy and a habit of digging into my test gardens whenever I turned my back. She made the house feel alive in a way I hadn't realized I was missing. But the most important thing I built that year wasn't for me. It was the Evelyn Scott Foundation. We offered scholarships to young women pursuing creative careers: art, music, design, writing. Girls who had been told their dreams didn't matter, that they wouldn't make money, that they should choose something practical. Every acceptance letter I signed felt like a quiet act of rebellion, proof that someone believed in them, the way my grandmother had believed in me. I visited her every day. Some days she was strong, telling stories about the past, her voice full of life. Other days she was quiet, tired, and we simply sat together, watching the garden slowly come back to life. "Your tulips are coming in," I told her one afternoon. "You planted those." She reminded me, "They're still yours," I said. She smiled. Everything good I've ever had came from sharing it with people who appreciated it. I nodded. I understood that now, more than ever. The money hadn't made me happy. It had given me something else. Options, space, freedom from needing approval from people who were never going to give it. Real happiness came from simpler things, from work that mattered, from relationships that were honest, from finally being able to live without shrinking myself. People sometimes ask me about my family, where they are now, whether we've reconciled. The truth is, it's complicated. My parents live in a small apartment across town. My father works as a mechanic again. My mother works at a grocery store. They're not struggling in the way people imagine. But they're not living the life they once thought they deserved either. We speak occasionally. My father sends me a short message on my birthday every year. Hope you're well. Love. Dad? I reply the same way. Thank you. Hope you're well too. And that's where it ends. My mother has never apologized. She calls sometimes, usually to complain about her situation, or to hint that she could use help. I listen. Then I gently change the subject. Sometimes she hangs up. Sometimes we talk for a few minutes before the tension creeps back in. I'm not ready to let her back into my life, and maybe I never will be. That's okay. Forgiveness isn't something you owe anyone. It's something you give yourself. When you're ready. Elena is different. We meet occasionally, coffee, lunch, conversations that are still a little awkward, but real. She's rebuilding her life from the ground up. New apartment, new job, therapy, trying to understand how she ended up where she did. We thought it was normal. She told me once. Everything about our family. I thought I was lucky. I nodded. We believed what we had to believe to survive. I said. She didn't cry that time. That felt like progress. As for Victor, I don't know where he is, and I don't care. Some people don't deserve space in your mind once they're gone. I had already made peace with that. People always ask me the same question. Did the $100 million change my life? The answer surprises them. Not really. What changed my life was something much smaller. A moment. A realization. That I had spent 32 years waiting for people to see my value, and they never would. Not because I didn't have value, but because they weren't looking for it. That lottery ticket was never really about the money. It was a mirror. It showed me exactly who they were. And more importantly, it showed me who I didn't want to be anymore. If you would have made the same choice as I did, choosing to protect yourself, set boundaries, and finally walk away from people who never truly valued you, then right, you were wise. I'll know that maybe. Just maybe. I wasn't alone in that moment. But if you think I should have stayed, forgiven everything, and kept the peace no matter what, then just right. Stay. And if your choice would be different, something in between, something I haven't thought of, I truly want to hear it. Because the truth is, life doesn't come with one right answer. Sometimes we're all just doing the best we can with what we've been given. That was my story. And I keep wondering, have you ever been in a situation where you felt invisible in your own family, or had to choose between your peace and your relationships? If you feel comfortable, share your story with me. I'm here. I'm listening. There's a moment in life when everything becomes clear, not because something good happens, but because something finally breaks inside you. If you've been sitting here listening to this story for a while, maybe take a second, stretch a little, relax your shoulders, breathe. Thank you for staying with me all the way through. That means more than you think. What this journey taught me isn't really about money. It's not even about justice or revenge. It's about something much quieter, but far more powerful, the moment you stop asking people to see your worth and start choosing to see it yourself. For years, I believed that if I tried harder, stayed kinder, worked more, gave more, eventually, I would be enough for them. But the truth is, some people don't fail to love you because you lack value. They fail because they never learned how to see it. And once you understand that, something inside you shifts. You stop shrinking. You stop explaining yourself. You stop sitting at tables where your presence is tolerated but never truly valued. And instead, you begin to build your own space. A life where respect isn't something you beg for, but something that naturally exists. The most important lesson I learned is this: setting boundaries is not selfish. Walking away is not weakness. Choosing yourself is not betrayal. Sometimes, it is the most honest and courageous thing you can do. And maybe someone listening right now needed to hear that. If this story resonated with you, don't just keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who might be going through something similar. Leave a comment. Tell me your thoughts, your experiences, because your voice matters. And it could help someone else feel less alone. If you want to be part of a community where we tell real stories, where we learn from each other and grow together, then gently tap that subscribe button and stay with me for the next journey. Thank you again for being here, for listening, for feeling. I'll see you in the next story.
Welcome to Family Confessions. Our stories go beyond entertainment, helping viewers recognize toxic behaviors, understand boundaries, and reflect on their relationships, while reinforcing self-worth and the strength to heal and move forward. Each video follows a structured workflow ensuring quality and value for our audience. Thank you for being here.